Said this.
Sorry. Everybody here? I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment for March 26, 2026 to order. To be pleased stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes? Is there any corrections or additions? No, true. Okay. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Same sign. I mean, yeah, same sign. Good. Today we're going to review a special use permit application with the Brunswick Partnership for Housing for some improvements and they want to do. But we'll do our homework here. I mean, what we start every meeting with, the explanation of the quasi judicial process. This hearing is a quasi judicial evidentiary hearing, and that means that it is similar to a court hearing. State laws set specific procedures and rules concerning how the board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of administrative and legislative land use decisions. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decisions upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. If the decision is constrained by the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. The meeting is open to the public. Parties withstanding have rights to participate fully. Parties are limited to the applicant, the local government, and individuals who can show they have standing and will suffer special damages. Special damages may include parking, stormwater runoff, crime problems, or property value impact. Proximity alone is not enough to prove such. Other individuals may serve as witnesses when called by the board. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. And to start off, generally it's town staff followed by the applicant. Does any board member have any conflict, any problem?
Mr. Chairman, I should just say, for the record, from the attorney for the Board of Adjustment, it's not an issue that I see, but just for transparency, I'll mention that a couple of years ago, Brunswick Partnership for Housing, the owner, not the applicant, consulted with me on a completely different matter. I don't think it's going to affect, would never wreck my judgment,
Right.
how I advise the board about process here.
Okay.
Just wanted to state that for the record.
Okay, thank you, Ray. I know John said he'd be here late. Audrey's not here, so we'd like to Steve Gosher to come on board for today's meeting. Does that need a motion? Or is that just for the record? I can say that for the record.
I think it just has to happen, stated for the record.
Okay. Hey, Steve, you're on board. Okay. So if I could have Wendell, please, start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one second. We'll get this started now. Okay.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Special use permit SUP 26-06 is requested by the Brunswick Partnership for Housing. Further, from now on, I'm going to say PH for funsies. BPH will be constructing 7 townhomes split by 2 residential buildings. These 2 buildings will be on one parcel that is 0.69 acres or approximately 30,000 square feet in area. The proposal is directly next to the existing Brunswick Partnership for Housing Transitional Housing Development, which is a 4 units transitional housing. So that is where, geez.
No, that's my problem. I was trying to fix the screen so that you guys aren't nothing.
Well, anyways, it's to the southeast of the subject lot. Site locations. Sorry, can you go back on the slide? Okay, thank you. Now we're on track. Site location. The proposed development is located along East 11th Street near North Atlantic Avenue. Is served by utilities that are existing. Is outside of the special flood hazard area. Resides within the Office of Institutional Zoning District. And is adjacent to the northwest and southeast by other O&I zoning districts parcels. It is predominantly surrounded by residential uses with R10 zoning to the north. And even though to the south is BED, that is the Brunswick Village Apartments, which is also residential. So it is predominantly surrounded by residential development. Here we have 10.3.1 of the UDO. What we're really looking at here is the land use, multifamily dwelling, cross-sect with the zoning district that will be incorporated in O&I, and we see the SS. For the audience that doesn't know, SS means in this situation that it is required to have special use permits, and the other S is that there are specific use standards that must go with this proposal, and we'll find those specific use standards at 3.7A of the UDO. Existing zoning land use. The O&I district is defined as a district designed for office institutional uses at low to moderate densities and multifamily housing. This district should be used as a transitional zone between areas of conflicting land uses. And then to define multifamily dwelling, it's a single structure comprised of 3 or more dwelling units, the number of families and residents not exceeding the number of dwelling units provided. Here we have a rendering of what the proposed structures will look like. The development will have 7 townhomes split between 2 residential buildings. One building, building 1 will be 4 units, building 2 will be 3 units. There will be a stormwater infrastructure involved and the required landscape buffer yard as well. Furthermore, and I'll get into this a little bit more, the existing BPH project will have a shared parking agreement with this proposal so that both land uses have meet the minimum parking standards. I'll break into that in a few minutes. Proposed development will consist of approximately 10,500 square feet. We're comprised of 2 residential structures again that are approximately 7,200 square feet. We'll have an accessory storage building attached to building 2. Let's see if you can't really see it, but there's storage unit right there listed. We'll have a stormwater pond, and then to the very rear will be a 20-foot rear buffer yard. In which case, where appropriate, they will maintain the existing vegetation to add to the capacity of that buffer yard. As we see on the right side of the plot, The existing BPH building has 4 transitional housing units and 1 450 square foot office. So when I'm talking about them requiring special, parking agreements, which again, I'll get further into the weeds of this in a few moments. Right now, with the development of this new project, the existing BPH building lost the most parking. However, the new development is going to create more than enough space to offset that loss. So the new development of these 2 buildings will have the mandatory parking plus the difference required for the transitional housing. Here we have our dimensional standards. The proposal complies with every dimensional standard. I'll let this sit for a minute so that you guys can soak that in. And parking.
Combined total, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Would you go back to that other slide? When that next to the last one, 11 units, max complies with 10, what does that mean?
Means that they meet the standard at 10 units per acre.
Right,
So they're under the max 11 units per acre.
okay.
And then, so for instance, 55% minimum open space ratio is required. They meet that standard with 57%.
I got it, yeah. I was
Yeah.
reading it wrong.
All right, parking. The combined total required parking for both existing and proposed BPH developments amount to 28 parking spaces, including ADA compliant spaces. Of that 28, the proposed development requires a total of 2 spaces per unit and an additional 2 spaces for guests. So at 7 units, 2 times 7 is 14, plus an additional 2 units, 16. That is what the proposal requires now. And there's 23 unit spaces available to that. So that said, the existing BPH parking requirement is 2 units per, 2 spaces per unit, 2 spaces per guest, and 2 spaces for the 450 square foot office. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus the 2 for the guest, that's 10, plus the 2 for the 450 square foot office, that's 12. Well, what we can see here, if the picture was in the picture wasn't there, they have 6. So again, they're borrowing with the parking agreement, they will be borrowing from the development of the proposal to meet their minimum parking standards. Between the 2 lots, however, they amount to a total of 29 spaces. So they're over the requirement by 1 space,
That's combined property.
combined parks.
Are these lots being combined?
No, sir. The transitional housing is going to remain its own separate thing, but we do allow for parking agreements in between solitary lots.
So this doesn't need the variance?
No, it does not require variance. The parking agreement is solid.
Will the parking agreement be finite or permanent? Is it like an easement? What is it?
Exactly. It is like an easement. It goes in on through in perpetuity of the project.
So it gets recorded and everything?
Yes, sir. Yes, it has been.
Be on the deed, but
Excuse me.
it'd be on the deed, it would run with the land.
Yes. The burn with the plan.
I know, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So the density is 10 units or 11 units per acre. We're not at an acre here. Do we take it prorated or
Yeah, exactly. It's prorated, so we're at 0.67, I think I said.
0.69?
Acre, and so that's prorated to that 0.69.
Okay, so it would be 7.59 would be the maximum allowable.
Yes, and they're at 7. Sorry. Yeah.
I lost it.
Sorry. Oh, and I meant to mention, the development will have a network of sidewalks measured 5 feet wide, navigating so that residents can navigate between the parking lot to their domiciles, to the wastebasket of the refuse bins and the open space.
Is, looking at the rear buffer yard, am I correct that that drainage swale that's been such a problem?
You know, I didn't consider that until you asked. I went out there and did a site visit, and I didn't know that was what that was. But now that you mentioned that, I have heard in different conversations that there is a swell there. But I don't know if that has any historical reference or bearing to this case per se. The case, this project is outside the special flood hazard area, so we can't require any further, flood zone requirements.
Still a concern because in the no-name storm in September 2024, several of the houses facing Fodale that are the next row of structures north there suffered severe damage from water that wasn't draining. I know they've done some work on that drainage. Is there anything to that you can speak to? Is there anyone else here who can speak to that?
Not that I'm aware of, no, I'm sorry, but this wasn't part of my equation when I was doing my research. I will ask if the applicant might have something to say to that, if we should put a feather in that for now. Thank you for the question, sir. Okay, landscaping. So, landscaping, the existing vegetation on the rear lots, will be preserved where it is feasible to add to the capacity of the 20-foot buffer yard. Prescribed buffer types call for a minimum of 2 canopy and 4 understory trees per 1,000 square feet. And the buffer yard is approximately 3,000 square feet. So they'll have several plantings they'll have to accommodate, but that'll be part of, the building review process.
Are they gonna be able to keep any of the trees that are there?
Yes, sir. Yes, they're gonna keep what is feasible. Now, the things that are gonna intercede or affect the stormwater pond, I imagine will have to go away. But there's a couple of, not specimen, but, regulated trees that, they'll be able to maintain. Utilities, lighting and design. The only thing I really want to make a point of is that the UDO stipulates that, multifamily units have to face forward. And in doing so, the original design here, the proposal didn't have it. And, what I do want to bring to your attention is that the developers went ahead at considerable cost and time, rechange their design so that the units face North Lebanon Street. So let me show you real quick. Basically, it's going to look like this from North Lebanon Street.
That's the street facing side on both of them?
That's the street facing side, yes, sir. And then the building one, the 4 unit,
That's the building closest to 11th.
yes, that's building 2.
You're standing in the middle of 11th looking at that, and that's what you see.
Correct.
On building 2.
So that's building 2, and that's facing us. So that's all to say that they went out of their way, redeveloped, and came up with this proposal so that they can be in accordance with the UDO standards there. While we're here, I'll show you the elevations that we have. So this is building 1's elevation. As I had mentioned, it's 4 units. There's the side view of it. And here's building 2. Again, that's the front view, up top side, and then the right elevation on the bottom. Staff findings. The proposed development is found to be consistent with the O&I zoning intent. Provides needed housing opportunities, meets density and dimensional standards, is compatible with the surrounding developments, and provides adequate parking and circulation. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit as the development is presented. If issued, the applicant will go before the June 18th planning board for the major site plan review. And I can answer any questions regarding the presentation or staff. Thank you.
Question on window.
Greenville, will the existing building now become part of the entire facility?
Now let me go back to the
Do they have access between the two?
There's common sidewalks, and if you can see, sir, from the side plan here, I really wish we had a laser pointer not clear through white. But, the existing building in that parcel is gonna remain separate. It's gonna be its own entity. They are owned by the same property owners, however, Brotherly Partnership for Housing owns both parcels.
If people are parking, are they gonna park in 23 parking spaces and go into the existing building?
They could, that's what the parking agreement that I was discussing about, with earlier.
Sidewalk access.
So there is, yes, sir, there is sidewalk access. There you go. Thank you, Shaggy.
Looking at trash.
The trash has been, that was another thing that we had to, play with, well, that the developers played with as far as, design goes. We've run into a couple of problems with it. Well, I believe, and, they will quote me on this, or they will correct me if I'm wrong here. The trash is going to be just individually placed in the back. Right. Pardon me, sir, I apologize. So I believe these are the receptacles for the trash right here. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Rather than one primary receptacle?
What access to that, 11th Street or North Atlantic or what, how would they get to it?
So that would be the west parcel property line of, let me show you.
I mean, is it a dumpster?
They're gonna be individual receptacles.
Individual percent.
The problem that we ran into is you can't have a dumpster in the front of the property, but there's no real location. They want to save a specimen tree that's out on the front property line. So that they had to play with the design a little bit to accommodate that.
I don't know about the access.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. So if you look at the parcel, the subject parcel here, the left property line, yeah, thank you, Cheyenne. That left property line, that's where the trash will be facing. But again, they're going to be individual containers, not dumpsters.
Where's the road to pick it up at?
They're gonna roll around.
They're going to wheel, there'll be a wheel down truck.
So you'll have, oh, all along 11th Street then will be where they wheel it to? Okay.
I need to withdraw my question about the drainage. Got turned around in my head and thought we were on the other side of the street. I'm sorry.
All right, Michelle.
What's that next to the left, going west, northwest?
Oh, so that is a, I don't know the full details. It's like an AT&T,
It's a cellular transmitter.
thank you. I don't even think I can spell that well, 1 second.
There's nothing residential there.
Not residential. Okay. And because it's O&I, there's not a required buffer yard between it and the proposed developments. However, because the, as I believe I said, so the northern properties are zoned R10, there is a 20-foot required buffer yard between the O&I and those parcels that they've accommodated. Well, if that's all that you have for me, then by all means, I can hang out for more. Yes,
We
sir.
got plenty.
By all means, just so you know that, our applicant also has a presentation, and they can certainly speak more about the design and engineering side of things.
Even though Jason withdrew his comment, it did raise a prompt for me. If you, Wendell, could go back to that image that shows the lot numbers
Um,
early on. It's got the, you can see it in plan view, it's got the trees and all that. Not that one, keep going.
hang on.
It's this one. If there was an easement to the north of the property, it would show. Like, if, let's say there's a drainage easement. I just wanted to make sure it would show up on that map. That would be the map where it would show, right? Okay. I just wanted to. On the north side, where they show the buffer, the 20-foot buffer.
That green buffer.
Yeah. Beyond that, if there was a storm drainage easement, that's where it would show on this map that would have been dedicated. That's why I just wanted to clarify. When Jason said that, I just wanted to go through that. Okay. So the existing facility is transitional housing, if I'm not mistaken. The proposed is or is not.
It is not.
Just want to make sure. I think I read in here where And I'm not trying to go back in time and encumber the transitional development that's already there and in use. But we've had some issues come up before with what's going on with neighboring lots and parcels and uses. And I think it's in here somewhere where transitional housing requires a rear fence. I just want to make a mention of that. So when you go through and start looking at that buffer treatment, and I'm not, don't hold me to it, but I think there is a requirement for the rear yard of transitional housing to have a fence 8 feet tall. And you can skewer me if I missed it, but I thought I caught that in here somewhere. That's why I wanted to ask about whether or not the new one was also going to be transitional housing. Okay, we've already got the cell tower out in the open, so that, and I kind of looked at that separately to see if there's any sort of, additional bulk criteria to apply on that side. Do you have an elevation of, that's really bad. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's 31.
Okay. One at the top is what you see when you drive into the new lot that you're gonna make.
Exactly. Okay, so let me go back to the site plan.
I'm okay.
If we're coming off of North 11th into the parking lot, and you see that bigger structure to the rear,
Yeah.
what you see going towards that, as you highlighted, is that
Right.
top elevation.
All right, now the bottom one, that's the north elevation.
Right side, that would be the northeast.
Oh, okay, northeast, but you're looking toward 11th Street when you see that one at the bottom. The only thing I wanted to point out is that you guys.
No, you'd be looking west. So see the one on the bottom, you'd be from the pink
Let me ask
square looking west.
Let me ask it another way.
You have a front elevation of the building lower left. I don't know what number you're calling it, building 2, building 3,
Building 2
5,
right here?
building 7, I don't know.
So the front elevation is this one up top side, sir?
Do you have an elevation as if you're parked in front of the smaller of the 2 buildings? Do you have a front elevation?
So,
That side,
yeah,
that's the side from 11. Do you have a front elevation of that?
so the front elevation is that top,
Well,
image. Now, coming from the parking lot, it's the second image right here. Right side elevation.
it just didn't, here's one. So I just want to make sure, you guys painstakingly referred this storage building as being attached. What I was looking for is an elevation that shows this attached. It's a part of the building. It's not attached. It's part of the building. When you look at this, it reads like, well, we're going to build this, and then we're going to attach something to it. It's like, no, you're going to build it all at the same time. And that's all I'm trying to get at, is that the front on this one exhibit, it says, paren 3 unit, 3-unit townhome building. That's the building I'm after.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a front elevation of that
So the
from
front
the
elevation,
parking lot.
from the parking lot, that's the right elevation. And there's that second image on the bottom, sir.
Okay, and where's that? Where's this?
So that
Where's the storage
the
building?
storage building would be,
It's not shown.
it's not shown because
Okay,
it's.
that's all I wanted to get at. I just want to make sure.
I didn't ask.
Well, I was looking for that elevation so I could see whether or not it was there. Now that I see it, it ain't there. So it just seems like there's a lot of energy around this attached thing. And it's going to get built with everything else. So I just didn't quite understand why there was so much energy around it.
Right.
Sorry.
No,
I saw the setbacks. So that, did you, just one last question about, I went immediately to table 3.2 for the dimensional requirements by zoning district. What was used? Was it by use or by zoning district that you applied the bulk criteria to the job?
Zoning district. So anytime you Yeah, land use doesn't dictate what your dimensional requirements are, so it's only dictated by the zone.
So the applicant's actually doing us a favor and proffering us another 5 feet in the back, because he's only supposed to give us 15.
Correct. Yes,
I
sir.
just want, you know, I want to pat them on the back when they help us out, and they're actually giving us 5 more feet.
But to be transparent, that extra 5 feet is because they are required 20-foot buffer yard. So. So the setback is 15 feet,
Right.
but because they're adjacent to R10 lot to the
So
rear,
that-
they need a buffer yard of 20 feet wide.
I think that.
Yes. Give it, take it away.
No, I know. Okay.
You know what depth and dimensions on the stormwater farm?
I do not, I'll have to leave that to the applicant.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, and we can always bring window back. Of course, okay, another question. So we want to have our applicant come up, please. Whoever's representing.
Or?
Both can.
Both.
Would you let me down? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth. And so, don't put it up, but the truth. I do. Thank you, sir. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Chairman, we'll need your names too.
Yeah, my name's Barry Fulton. And I'm on the board of directors of the Redwood Partnership for Housing as chairman. And I've been asked to directly speak today along with our engineering staff from Paramount Engineers. Like I think planning, we worked diligently for many months, if not over a year, in trying to bring this project forward. I'm very, very happy to be here and thank you, Chairman and members, for indulging us today. It was a great in-depth presentation on planning. I would like to take a little different approach and maybe to review more about its use that differs widely from our current facility. And to do that, I give a little bit of context. Next slide. As we pointed out, we have an existing building on lot 52. And then we have already lot 51 is part of the original acquisition. As you can tell, most of the bottom of 51 was basically used for parking. Which rendered really the rest of the lot almost, from a highest and best use standpoint, almost useless. We discovered that adjacent to lot 51, lot 50, which was owned by AT&T, we went back in the tax records and found that that's a construction yard, bucket trucks, and then the cell tower behind it. That they acquired the extra lot that was actually platted as a separate lot, lot 50. And they acquired that as part of the Bell breakups back in 1975. They did not know that they owned that lot. We discovered it. It was very, very important to us. Obviously, it was not very important to them, even though they've been paying taxes on it for years. Anyway, we approached AT&T, convinced them that they did own the lot. Now, this process took 3 years. Got to the right people to convince them they own the lot. Then we had to sit through a process to make sure that it wasn't any of the 21 operating companies within AT&T that were planning to use the lot that they didn't know they owned. After a long and extended negotiation, once all that took place, we were able to acquire the lot at a bargain. Thankfully, to AT&T, not as a donation, but as a bargain. And it's in March of 2025, we secured that lot. When you take lot 50 and lot 51, combine them together, now we have a piece of property that is very, very useful to all of us. We went ahead as our commitment, it was kind of outlined in working with planning. We went ahead and we've already combined lot 50 and 51. So that is now one parcel. It's called lot 50. Lot 52 is our existing transitional housing facility. common owners. You've seen the schematic. When you take away lot 50 from the transitional housing facility, you run into a parking issue, as this was outlined by Wendell. So what we've already gone ahead and in the recombination of that lot and recorded it to lot 50, we've also recorded a shared parking agreement. So that's, again, like a deed runs with the property in perpetuity. That makes the transitional housing facility stand on its own. It makes lot 50 in the proposed townhomes stand on their own. So they have joint ownership. Next slide. This shows some pictures of what's currently there. It's very difficult to see in the upper right, left-hand corner at the front of the building, the other photo there. So that's you see the gabling over our front entrance. Next to our sign is one window that's shuttered on either side. And part of the UDO, and looking at it, we wanted to make the new building substantially similar in architecture to the existing building. And that was the goal we set out. Next slide. So this has got a rendering at the very front building. As you can see, it's significantly similar. One door front, in this case, two windows shuttered on each side. Both bricks will match the current building in lot 50 with brick. Even though it's going to be substantially newer, we think this design is a great bookend as you want to get into East 11th Street. You have a very beautiful low-lying buildings that will seamlessly interface into our existing building, the same gabling that you see on the rooftop, same style of building, and then into the residential neighborhood. So we think it's going to flow and integrate very nicely. Again, if we weren't able to purchase the lot from AT&T, that Mother Nature would be all you see perpetuity. So you have common ownership. You have substantially significant architecture between the two parcels. However, that's where the similarities end. Transitional housing, with our purpose and mission, is to house unsheltered families for a brief period of time till we find them permanent housing. Been very successful. They used to 18 months in transitional housing without payment to us under a set of rules until we can find them permanent housing. A set of rules or guidelines to get them in the most advantageous position. We find permanent housing, they can take advantage of it. They used 18 months. We've been successful over the last almost 4 years now to rotate families out in less than 9. Now, the proposed project they're asking for approval today is not transitional housing. It is strictly rental property. It will be rental townhomes. And again, with the second half of our mission is to advocate for the development of safe, affordable housing for our workforce in our community. And that is very different than transitional housing. Very different in terms of zoning, where the transitional housing had to go through conditional use permits. Here, it's within the zoning, just need a special use permit that we're asking for.
Would your transitional housing folks be able to transition into those rental units? Is that kind of part of the process?
They could.
Right, okay.
They could. Right. We view it more as it's going to be income indexed based on a workforce housing is typically defined as 80% of medium rents and 80% of medium income. So there's an income cap and there's also a rent cap. Affordable housing is 60%. Now, depending on our cost structure, once we get the financing for this upon approval, that will determine, can we actually get to a 60% base, or is it more likely going to be an 80% workforce housing? But when you envision how we've set up the floor plans, between the 7 units, there's 2 3-bedroom units. There's 3 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units. So we can get a nice mix of combination of families in there. And we're looking at targets of, the healthcare providers, the CNAs, the radiologists reading reports, people working in the cafeterias and the janitorial service, educators and teachers, hospitality workers, municipality workers. Right now, it's very, very difficult for those people to look where they live. And we're thinking that this is not gonna solve all problems, but it's a step in the right direction. And we envision as they're successful, and if I just can give a brief scenario in my vision of a 2-bedroom unit, you have a newly graduate from St. Brunswick County Community College as a CNA. He would roughly make somewhere between $28,000 and $32,000. They were married to, say, a journeyman electrician, around $50,000. That income cap would be under our cap for workforce housing. Then say in over 2 years, she becomes an RN. He becomes a certified electrician on his own. Their income caps at that point in time could probably, on average salaries, go to $140,000. They would grow outside, successfully outgrow our caps. And they would be looking to start a family, buy a house, move on. So we hope to get the same type of turn in these rental units as we've seen in the transitional housing. So we can accommodate and serve more people over time than just having 7 rental units in Southport. Even though we need 7 rental units in Southport, we envision a turnover. I know you have some other questions I would like.
We'll let our, see that landscape plan again.
At the site plan, the landscaping.
You're separating the transitional housing from well, not really, I guess, there isn't. They're connected, I'm just saying. It looked to me like the tree line.
Allison,
I can see it.
those are existing trees.
Yes, sir. I am a landscape architect and worked on the landscape plan here. So there are some existing trees that are being displaced by this parking lot expansion, and we're just trying to reestablish that canopy in that area. Not necessarily block out, just get shade.
Get your name.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. What's your name?
Allison Ingebretson with Paramount Engineering. I need to spell that again. Okay.
That's kind of concludes my presentation. We have, common owners, very significant new similar architecture, but 2 very diverse uses on 2 separate parcels. And the one parcel, which is now called Lot 50, we need a special use permit to do that as part of its zoning, and that's what we're here to ask for your approval today.
Questions of the applicant?
Do you have any information on the depth and dimensions of the stormwater pump?
And your name, sir?
My name is Jeremy Blair. I'm a PE professional engineer with Paramount Engineering. So I don't have the horizontal dimensions off the top of my head here, but based on, we've conducted soil testing and preliminary design relative to meeting the requirements of Southport's stormwater ordinance, and the stormwater facility in the back will be an infiltration basin, which is a requirement of the ordinance. So shallow, 2 to 3 feet deep. Because at the bottom of the basin will have to be maintained 2 feet above the seasonal high water table. And so the testing out here shows that there's adequate depth to the seasonal high water table that design can be put into place. The infiltration rates are favorable for this site such that infiltration is a viable, technique. Also, outside of the building footprints, the remainder of the impervious area will, or paved areas, sidewalks will be constructed with a pervious paving material and adequate stone depth below it in order to act as an infiltrative device in accordance with the state and local requirements.
What do you got? In
Good.
the asphalt?
It'll be pervious pavement instead of
Concrete?
more likely a pervious concrete material.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
So in the stormwater pond, 2 to 3 feet in the upper part, and the other part is what? Did I not hear that correctly?
It will be uniform depth across.
Uniform depth.
Yeah.
Alligators can help.
Very important.
You gotta do.
We seem to have a housing shortage for them too. So we need to kill two birds with one
Yeah,
stone.
and ultimately, the design standard for infiltration devices that it be dry, most of the time. So hopefully, for the residents' sake, the alligators won't be so close by.
Well, that was, will be 10.
We don't have any, we could go either way there. There's not an ordinance requirement for fencing it, and it's not gonna be deep enough or holding water to be a drowning hazard or a nuisance there. So more than likely, it won't be fenced, so then it'll be open access for maintenance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any more of Wyndham? Everybody good?
Looking at the UDO. It's 3.8 and traditional housing facility should be screened from adjacent properties. But it said the 8-foot fence adjacent to residential, obviously that wasn't residential prior, it is now. Does that affect anything? I know it is, that property is not.
I'm so sorry, let me, I think I understand the question. Because it's residential, I'm assuming that you guys grant the CPD and the planning board grants the major site plan. No, basically the buffer zone is for a proposed use going up against an existing land use. Now, if for one reason those single land use R10s turn into something else, then the onus on them to offer against the residential use would be on them, but that's not likely.
And I don't know if this is helpful, but in the back of the transitional housing facility, there is a fence all the way around the back area.
I was curious, being that this is residential now, or can they make residential, would that allow?
Well, yeah, but it's a residential use, but it's still office and industrial zones.
Exactly.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at some,
That's what creates the need for the.
yeah, if you look at the buffer yard table, for O and I to be adjacent to R10, there's a 20-foot buffer yard. But for an R10 adjacent to an O and I, there's no buffer yard requirement.
So it would still stay O and I.
Yes, yeah, this is how we saw it. This, the zoning is gonna remain O and I.
Good. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Any discussion? Well, then I will entertain motions. Right?
Just a point of order, I think we had Mr. Dozer come in as the alternate because Mr. Allen wasn't here. And he arrived late, so just to clarify, Harley, so
Yeah,
we
I
do
put
need
it
a
on
vote.
it, and John will hear it, so.
Just making sure we have properly in place, so that.
Okay, so who's? So Steve's in for Harley and I.
Yeah.
So we're both voting.
Yes, I missed Harley here too, so thank you.
Okay, we got 5 motions to go through. Do I have a motion number 1?
There's a different motion in the body of the application, but I never seen.
Yeah, we don't do the, yeah, this isn't like,
Yeah.
Sorry, gentlemen. So there was a miscommunication between me and Director Meehan. She wanted me to illustrate the comp plan, how this fits into it. I took that to mean give you guys what we give the planning board and the alderman, of a denial and or a approval based off the comp plan, consistency statement. So that's why that's there. And it wasn't until this morning that, lo and behold, I found out. So that's my fault. I apologize.
Okay, so then we don't.
So you don't need that.
We
The
don't
only thing that you might need from there is how it's related to the comprehensive plan. I forget what article that falls under, 1 point something, but that's neither here nor there. So, no, that's me being extra.
Motion board addresses that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, drive the motion for number 1, please.
You want script with it.
That's what I was just trying to look.
I think I see it.
On the board.
Oh, that's.
Okay.
He went hella wrong.
You're.
That's a motion.
I move that the use will not materially endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare if located where proposed and developed according to the plan is submitted and approved. Finding the fact that this complies with the various standards in the development ordinance, the comprehensive use plan, and other outlines as provided by city statutes.
Second. Got a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion number 2.
I'll make a motion that, the use meets all required conditions and specifications as evidenced by the, plans that have been submitted and a review of those plans by city staff and GRC.
Second. Got a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3.
I'll make a motion that, I'll say the, use will not adversely affect the use or any physical attribute of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. The use is a public necessity, due to the, unaffordability of housing, and it will not cause, adverse, will not cause any, will not adversely affect adjoining or abutting property due to the restrictions and requirements of the UDO relative to setbacks and other building codes.
Got a second. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 4.
I move that the location and character of use is developed according to the plan is submitted and approved. It will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and any general conformity with the City of South Fork Comprehensive Plan. Finding of fact, ditto to everything you said already.
You may have just specifically in what policy 1.1 and action 1.17.
Agreed.
Support the proposed use.
And that, y'all got that? All in, you got a second? All in All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 5.
I move we recommend approval of the special use application with no condition.
Second. Chris, thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Well, it's been approved. And I, for one, speaking for myself, appreciate what you do.
Absolutely.
And what you are doing, and, you know, because it's a much needed thing here in this area. We appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing the plan, how it works. I think that's really.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you on behalf of the board. We appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Okay, we have, we're gonna go to business.
Brought this up at the last meeting about.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Fitzgerald's building, he built.
Yes.
He had trouble with flooding, and I raised the question on it. I said that they wanted them to get an engineer from the flooding. to find out if it was their fault. And I said, it was, they did pay somebody, and got an engineer to do the study. And he said, Mr. Fitzgerald probably did flood their property. Now, they spent some money on there and did all this, but I'm just wondering how we didn't get a vote on that because of the flooding. Because they were saying.
That was a by right, approved by right. They were allowed to do that without, correct me if I'm wrong,
Now, is
but
that, I mean, is that because an additional building would cause more flooding, right? Is that what we were making off?
that's, no, we have no jurisdiction over stormwater management flood. Well, all we were, and Wendell helped me here, we were ruling on his right, his request to put that building there.
I'm just curious.
So pardon?
He was asking permission for an ADU. That's why he was before us.
Right, yeah, yes.
Not the building, but the use.
Right.
Right, but they can build just the garage structure without, they don't need a special use permit.
They don't need a stormwater management,
Unfortunately,
unless it's a problem.
again, it's kind of a hole in the.
Yeah, well, that was my.
In the UDO.
They spent good money to do this, to get that, because they were requested by the board to
So
do
in district court.
it. Now,
Yeah, I mean, that's really not a burden.
I was just curious, I'm learning.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You're gonna learn something else.
Right. Oh, well, no, I'm with you. I learned a lot today. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Without the ADU in it, they don't need any special permission to just build the building themselves. The only thing they're getting permission, they're really not getting permission to build a building, they're getting permission to put an ADU, to living space in.
Yeah, plumbing, you know.
I agree with you, but I mean, Wendell indicated that the staff is doing this, but we do need to look at, the city needs to look at stormwater, even when on smaller lot. If you just develop an infill lot, right now you're exempt from it. I think we need to start with it.
Right, right. I know the community I worked at prior to this, they went and required subdivisions to have the whole subdivision. You know, if it was a subdivision, stormwater management, not by individual lots. See, like you were saying, we can come in here and just build it up 2 feet flood, and who cares? So, yeah.
It's kind of a lot, the UDO, I think most UDOs are written with the concept that if it's just an infill lot or just 1 or 2, 3 lots or something, that the existing stormwater system should be adequate to handle it. But when you got a 200-year-old city right by the coast, that's not necessarily always the case.
Come on, Bo.
I'm sure, I'm not trying to put anybody down. Just.
I'm
All right.
I'm not in the other, I don't believe it.
Okay, go.
We, with the stormwater ordinance, code was updated in October, actually. So now infill lots
Good.
will
That's what I
require.
thought. I
So,
thought that, yeah.
but if you have an existing home.
Right.
It's not triggered again to add over 800 square feet of impervious surface, so that's the difference, but we do have those catch-alls with the infill now, so
Cool.
we're getting there, slowly but
I
surely.
thought that it had changed. I thought that was the thing. Good. There was a whole lot of problem for ourselves. I'm sure, yes, there's lots of us. Guys. Steve, anything else?
Yeah, you know, I asked a question, I said, I noted, it says I noted that this is, the company that obtained information from the engineer regarding stormwater runoff. Well, they left the rest of what I said out. I said, well, they did do it and they found out that flooded, they left the wording out here. Kind of curious about that. Why was that left out?
I don't know what.
You look at minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I said more than that, and it's cut out, so I'm just kind of curious.
So sorry, I didn't catch the question, sir.
Well, I said,
Could you say that a little bit, Steve?
yeah, I said, I noted, Mr. Dozier noted, the opposition had obtained information from the engineer regarding the stormwater concerns. And then I said, well, I want this on the record, that it did flood the neighbor's yard, but that was left out of here. So I'm wondering, I'm curious why this stuff is said.
Well, I mean, that was before we approved the minutes. That's what we were asking when we go to approve the minutes, if that was something that you wanted to put in there. I don't know if we can go back and do that, or, I mean, that would, should have been a noted admission
Yeah.
during that time.
Not just curious.
I know we're all learning. Yeah, I got it. How do we deal with that? I don't know, Scott.
If you want, I can add it to these set of minutes, if you want it noted that whose yard, because I don't have this information, whose yard is flooded?
Cruz, Dale and Jimmy Cruz on Atlantic Avenue.
I'll give you the details of that.
Okay, so as long as somebody's
Somebody's
making
making
the
a detailed
details,
picture of the next door. So
I believe last time we talked about this, sir, it was outside the board's purview, so it was shut down. So we just stopped.
Yeah, we gotta be real careful.
And that's the reason why that I had to cut a lot of that out, because the chair had made.
yeah, that's
Okay, so if you want this noted in the minutes, you be careful, and I want Wendell to provide me all the information on this, so when I do put it in the minutes, it's not contestable later. So it's accurate, fair.
Well, I just would mention too, I mean, how is it that we know, where's the knowledge or information coming from that there was?
okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay, I understand, but, you know, I just felt.
No, but how do we know that? In other words, is this a fact that came in through evidence that we heard, which is substantiated in some way, or is it just someone's belief, or?
No, like I say, they hired an engineer, so it was above board, so, but they never got their chance, because y'all asked them to do that, they never got their chance to come back.
So
Because
that
you,
never-
I think you said that,
Right.
can't be like, well, we just say
Right.
that.
So it didn't come in, right? It was determined that that wasn't properly before the board at the time, when there was going to be.
Because they tabled this thing, and then it was signed.
Well, I think what happened.
I'm like, how did they go to this building?
Yeah.
You know, we tabled, we're supposed to come back.
No, they withdrew their application for an ADU.
Right.
So, and they came back and applied, what was it, just a bill, administrative regular, by right. bill.
Yeah.
ADU is what.
Granted, another permit. So it's like I said at the last minute, it was a moot point. We don't deal with it,
Well,
you know,
can he come back?
can do
Put in
it.
for an ADU?
I think that question was asked a couple times at the last meeting, yes.
If you wanted to change the nature of the use, yes, but as it relates to flooding, I didn't go forward with that application. Flooding is only an issue.
Yeah, he would come back.
Him and the other
Well,
neighbors.
if like over, he's gonna come back and do it.
Pardon?
He might not.
I know, but it says, you know,
He'll probably put it in the document.
okay.
Check it.
Back up.
And so we have zoning regulations that are enforced, and that keep him from, if he does put in an ADU, we'll find out about it like that. And which basically he will have a zoning violation on his hands. And if he chooses to come back forward with an application for an ADU, he's not going to do that. However, stormwater is not part of that equation anymore. It was never part of the equation. We shouldn't have told her to get experts, because our stormwater engineer said that there's no stormwater requirement. And at the end of the day, it was a by right project that he's doing. He was asking for permission to put an ADU.
You're our engineer, says it's not a problem.
Correct, our engineer said that there's not a stormwater
This
requirement.
house sat there for 20 years and didn't flood, and now it's flooded.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, gang, all right, gang.
Based on it, right?
That's.
It's not on side purview today.
All right, time out. Time out, please, time out.
Thank you, Rod.
We have begun to wander again. That's not our purview. I understand, Steve, but again,
I appreciate y'all, thank you.
I mean, I think everybody understands where you're coming from.
Well, and you know.
You know,
Everybody's sympathetic with.
Yeah, we're definitely sympathetic.
I'd like to see you get help with that flooding, you know, the city, I wish they could help us somehow.
Oh, well, yeah, I get you. I get you. I'm sure there's a lot of people that's down.
Like,
there.
and that matter is closed, so it's not before the board right now, and those findings weren't really findings, they were just.
Say it's been one.
Yeah, so I don't think it should become part of the minutes if properly excluded to begin with, and,
Yeah.
yeah, we're within the confines of where we are. That's more of a policy question to deal with than higher.
Good enough.
Yeah, we can. No, that's good. No, I mean, no, that's, you gotta ask those kind of questions. We're not gonna learn. I learned when you ask a question and he answers, I learned too, so it's good.
I'll learn, I can.
Right.
Enjoy doing this.
My philosophy is the only, dumb question is one that's never asked.
That's it.
So, that's it.
Appreciate it.
Can I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You can, second.
Right.
Everybody, vote we did.
I did. Oh, thanks, Tom.
Who votes to oppose? Anybody opposed?